Hello, my friends! I am coming at you today with a book review that shows that I don't automatically love everything fantasy. Unfortunately, on the surface, this book, it really looks like something I absolutely adore. Like, it's got a nice silver cover on it, it's shiny, and it's got a big freaking dragon on it. I was walking past it in the library maybe twice and thought, I might like that. But my first instinct was that there's something that didn't make me pick it up immediately that I saw it, strangely enough. And that first instinct was right. I don't like this. It feels like... this is not young adult fantasy, by the way. It's not labeled as young adult, and it has a little bit too much swearing and, I guess, sex in it for it to be classified as young adult. Like, that can have a little bit of, like, making out in it, and some sex scenes, I think, to be classified as young adult, but it can't have, like, this level of profanity in it. I don't actually mind the swearing. It's sometimes quite creative, sometimes it feels like just injected for shock value. I have so many other books that I can recommend instead, because it feels like it's constructed out of several other books that are way better on their own. The story is okay. Like, it's... let's start with how it's told. Like, it's told from both a third-person perspective, which is told by this shape-shifting demon person who takes the shapes or the bodies. It's a body snatcher. She takes the form of the main character's loved ones, basically, and tries to manipulate him into giving her a certain artifact. The existence of this, basically, what can I say, this artifact that sort of retains a person's soul or something like that, together with this shape-shifting demon, the combination and their proximity to each other in this story, it's made to create confusion. Like, it feels convoluted, like these things were just made up to be annoying, essentially. And besides that, I don't like the main character. I was over the whiny, mopey teenager trope while I was a teenager. When I was 16 and read Order of the Phoenix for the first time, I was pissed off at Harry Potter. And since then, I've really not been able to enjoy stories that much when they are mopey teenagers. Like Selena, she's 19 and she's kind of past the sullen stage, or she never had it because she was forced to be an assassin. Quoth in Name of the Wind, he never really has it either because he needs to survive on his own. I'm also over the whole orphan thief trope that Scott Lynch honestly does better than this guy or this author. I'm sorry, I don't want to hate on you, but I just can't like it. It's such it's trope upon trope upon trope, and it feels borrowed from so many other characters. Like, I had a plan for how I was gonna do this, in which order, but I get so worked up over this. I've been thinking about this book for almost a week since I finished it, and it's been sort of melding in my brain how I'm going to tell it, but yeah, I sort of, let go of that plan. It's not a smooth read. Like, A Throne of Glass is what I would say is a smooth read. Like, there's nothing where you sort of catch on a word or something that feels out of place and brings you out of the story. like this one does that in several ways. Sometimes it feels like, because she's trying to create a dialect for some characters, it just doesn't feel natural the way they speak, and that just rips you out of the story a little bit. And at least for me, I have to go back in the sentence and try to read it again just to make it make sense. It might be a dialectal thing with how she writes, and maybe it's modern literature and how things now have evolved into how it's written. But she's American. I don't know. And like I said, how it's told, like, it's both from the main character's point of view. I don't think I finished that whole thing about that. It's told from first-person perspective, partly. Like, I did this and I saw that. And then it's also told in third-person perspective from when the shapeshifter, because she's also a mind reader, I didn't say that, so she can, in great detail, tell the story. Well, it makes sense for the characters that she's absorbed, because she remembers all their memories, and she actually absorbs a little bit of their personalities, which is kind of cool, but it's also very frustrating because it makes her... There are so many overpowered characters. Like, there's basically no one that's normal, and it gets frustrating after a while, because people just get more and more powerful, so it feels like you're reading a shonen manga, you know, like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, where people just keeps getting more and more powerful. Like, there's no stopping it. There's no boundary to how powerful someone can become. And that's what this one reads like. Everyone is a step more powerful all the way up. And I have a little bit of an issue with that type of anime or manga, just because of that. It doesn't have to even be realistic, but it's just, why do you have a limit at first if you're gonna break it? But there's no set limit, I guess. Okay, never mind that tangent. Okay, so we have first-person perspective, we have third-person perspective, and then we have someone commenting on that, the whole story, because it's being recorded by a certain type of rock. You get to know this in the first chapter, so that's not really a spoiler. The conversation between the shape-shifting demon Talon and the main character is being recorded by a special rock, which someone else is then transcribing. The only character I actually like in the story is the one who's transcribing, but since he is the one who in footnotes always fill in the world building part, or the detail part of the story, for me, that always brings me out of the story. When I have to go, like, let's look at this. I think it should be like on the first page that this happens. Okay, yeah, here. So when you see an asterisk like this, like that, then you have to go down here to see what the narrator, or kind of narrator, the transcriber, has to say about it. And that, like, for me, it makes the story very jumpy, and it just, I guess I might have a little bit of trouble focusing on that type of thing. Like, it's too complicated. I just want to read it. If it was integrated into the transcription, so to say, then it would have been easier for me to accept. But now it feels like every time that happens, I have to jump back and forth in the text, and this is not a scientific paper. I don't want to read it like that. So yeah, that was very frustrating. Yeah, it just not a smooth read. I think the book Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell had pretty much a similar way of explaining things. Like, I couldn't even finish that one, because it was always like you have to look at the footnote and then find your way back in the text and sort of integrate everything. I don't have the attention span for that. Like, I can't handle it. Others might love that sort of thing. I don't. Okay, so like I said, the narrator is actually the only character that I really like here. He's intelligent. The main character is not smart, and he makes dumb decisions. He does not make the decisions that I would make in certain situations, which, when you read it as I did, yeah, doesn't work for me. I was angry at Harry Potter. Like, the Order of the Phoenix was my least favorite book too, because he doesn't correspond to what I would do in certain situations. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I was over the sullen teenager when I was a teenager. The timelines are a jumble. If you want jumble timelines, read Malazan Book of the Fallen series. Like, Malazan Book of the Fallen. I'll spell it out on the screen. Like, that's also a grating read. Like, it's not a smooth read because there is so much happening. It's very gritty, but it has better world building. It has better fantasy elements, I think, and there's actually characters that I like there. My favorite character turned into a tree, and I wasn't happy about that, but like, if you want the weird timelines, go with Malazan, because they do it better. That's Steven Erikson, and I think there's one other author, because they created that world together. Okay, one more. I already told you a little bit about the shapeshifter and that soul-keeping artifact and their proximity together, making everything a little bit more complicated and annoying. Then there's the mind-reading bullshit. Mind-reading, yeah. Because it feels like every other character is a mind reader, and they know exactly what the main character is thinking at all times, and only certain people are harder to read than others. Like Talon, for example, the shape-shifting monster, she can read basically anyone's mind. Like, mind reading is way too common in this story. Like, why even try to keep anything a secret when everyone can read your mind anyway? Like, yeah, it annoys me, it bugs me so much. And then we have, and the main character also feels like a dollar store Barbie version of Quoth, but blonde. Like, if you read Name of the Wind, this one is so much better, and it's written so much better. It's just far smoother of a read, even though it's also complicated. It's not, and the way this is told is also not traditional, but it doesn't make you fall out of the story in the way it's told. So Rothfuss, if you want a bard with magical abilities, read this. If you want overpowered fire magic, read this one. If you want convoluted timelines and very confusing event sequences, read Malazan Book of the Fallen. There really is nothing that another book doesn't make. Yeah, there's no... I don't want to say there's nothing special about it, because I kind of like the underlying story, but since I don't like the main character, I just can't bring myself to even consider reading the next book. Like, this one, like, I want to like it. I really do. I just don't. I forced myself through it, and it took like all the way through until here. until I started to actually both understand what was going on and started to like what was going on. And this is not, this is a hefty book, like, yeah, I don't want to read the next one. I'm a little bit curious to know what happens in the story, but not enough to actually force myself through it. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. And besides, if, like, the main character, he loses a lot of those close to him. And that's not a spoiler, because you learn that really early on, also in the first chapter. Like, but he doesn't really deal with it. It feels like Rothfuss in A Name of the Wind, he deals with sorrow and grief and mourning in a way that is actually real, and you can recognize it if you've ever dealt with that type of feeling yourself. But this one, it's just glossed over, kind of. Like, you know, he's a little bit traumatized. And also, actually, in A Throne of Glass, she deals with it better. She tells the story of how Selena has to go through all that in order to get stronger. But apparently, that just happens in a time jump of 2 years. That I've even forgotten his name. I can't really handle him. What's his name? Yeah, I don't know. He's called Rook. What the fuck is the main character's name? Kieran. Yeah, Kieran. See, I read this whole book and I couldn't remember the main character's name. Like, what does that tell you? Sure, I do have a very bad short-term memory, but I should be able to sort of retain that information. It didn't stick. Anyway, I give this book 2 out of 5 fans, because I suppose for some people this might be very, very good if they like that sort of thing. I just didn't. I'm sorry. I've read so many other books that tell similar stories in so many better ways. In so much better ways. So that's all I had to say about that. I will see you in my next video.